Hi everyone! Before we dive into this week's episode, please check out our promo of the week.
Do you love true crime but are looking for something different?
It sounds like a sitcom.
It does.
The Benders.
The kind of assholes you should probably leave them alone.
Do you like learning about cases so off the wall they can't possibly be true?
Her wig is enormous, but it is lifted off her head by a monkey.
Do you love history, but want to hear about what they didn't teach you in school? It's just got a almost where you hang your horns sign.
Do you like laughing awkwardly about cases that are bizarre and a little strange?
They'd be able to wield so many knives with all of their little arms.
Then we have the podcast for you. Join me, Lindsay.
And me, Madison, for Ye Old Crime,
where we discuss the funny, strange, and obscure crimes of yesteryear.
Listen every Wednesday, wherever you get your podcasts.
And we'll see you next time with another tale
as old as crime.
Hi, I'm Laura.
And I'm Joe.
And this is CrimeDivers.
Hello everybody, welcome to today's episode.
Hello.
And today we have a lot of sword.
Yep, first one of 2022.
Yes, but before we do that,
yes, we have our missing persons that we want to highlight. So,
yes.
Jill, I believe you have one.
Yes, I've found a man called Douglas, known as Doug Crawford. So he is 66 years old and he is missing and disabled. So he's a white male, 5'7", 170 pounds, brown eyes, hair grey/brown. He has a moustache, or well, he had a moustache when he went missing. Scars he has on his right arm and his lower back. Doug is a surviving cancer patient who has a hole in his throat, rendering him unable to speak.
Right.
So Doug is from, sorry, I never said where he was from. He's from Vinton, Louisiana. So Doug was last seen on March the 19th, 2021, wearing blue jeans, a long-sleeve grey shirt and black tennis shoes. Doug also wore bandanas to cover the hole in his neck from the cancer surgery. And the picture that we'll put up on social media, the bandana in that photo is the same bandana he was wearing on the day that he was last seen.
Right.
So he would carry a pen and pad to communicate with people because, as I said, he couldn't speak. So if you have any information on the whereabouts of Doug, you will receive a reward only if he is found. And the number to call is 931-994-4669. So I will put that information in the show notes, and then I will put the reward post, the missing poster, on social media. So if anybody could share that, comment on it, like it, whatever, interact.
Exactly.
Thank you. Yep. So, and also, as usual, we'd just like to say thank you to our Patreons, and if anybody would like to join them over there for bonus episodes, just head on over to patreon.com/CrimeDivers, and the tiers start from as little as £1 a month. So, that's that out the way.
Yes. Shall we get on to today's Laura Soul?
Yes, so what's it called?
It's called Imprisoned by Our Parents.
And where in the world? I think I know where in the world we
We're
are.
in America.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, so I think I know this story, but I think most people will, but as we've always said, it's good to get the...
Well, I didn't know the whole backstory here, so I mean, I've heard of the case.
Well, yeah, I mean...
But I didn't know the ins and outs.
I think a lot of people won't unless they've obviously done research or listened to a podcast. I listened to a podcast just a few weeks ago that... So that's the only reason why I know. If I hadn't listened to that podcast, then I probably wouldn't have known much of the details. But you might have other details that they didn't include on that podcast. You never know.
Who knows?
So should we dive in?
Let's dive in. So, as we've just been saying, this is a well-known case about a family called the Turpins.
Yeah.
I know it's quite a popular case, but it's just something that really, got my interest, and I really want to cover it. And I just thought, you know what, this is a good one to do on the podcast. So, Are you ready to hear it?
Yep.
Okay. So David Allen Turpin was born on the 17th of October 1961. Louise Ann Robinette was born on the 24th of May 1968. The two of them met. Now, there's two places where they say they've met. There was one report that I said that they met at Princeton High School in Princeton, West Virginia. But then I've listened to a documentary that said they actually met at church. So I'm not entirely sure where they met, but they met.
Unfortunately,
they met. They became a couple and married in 1985 when David was 23 and Louise was 16. So the Turpins are Pentecostal Christians, which is a Protestant Christian movement that emphasises direct personal experience of God through baptism with the Holy Spirit. So as part of their beliefs, the couple had numerous children because God called on them to do so.
Oh.
They had 10 daughters and 3 sons between 1988 and 2015. So despite their socially conservative beliefs, the couple also engaged in swinging.
What? Swinging?
Swinging, yeah, apparently.
Okay, like, each to their own, haven't got a problem with that, but if they're have beliefs and stuff, surely the God didn't tell them to go and do that.
Yeah. So, in the early days, I mean, they seemed like, a fairly normal family. David, he had a good job. They lived comfortably. They were all right. But in 1998, they actually went bankrupt because apparently Louise just liked to spend money.
Ah, okay.
Like, she just
Same.
had, she had, her credit card bills were ridiculous. Like, I've seen pictures of, like, the houses that they lived in.
Mm-hmm.
They were hoarders. Like, she would buy stuff just for the sake of buying it, basically.
Yeah.
But a lot of stuff would not even get used and touched and stuff. And I mean, obviously, maybe I don't know if I'll touch on it later, but, in some of the houses, she'd have, like, all these, like, brand new, like, toys, board games and stuff like that the kids weren't allowed to touch. But, like, she would have all this
What's
stuff.
the point buying them then?
Well, exactly. But, I mean, so I can understand maybe why they went bankrupt, because clearly she spent all their money.
She obviously had a problem.
Yeah, so they went bankrupt, and they also just, like, withdrew from everybody. They homeschooled the kids.
Mm-hmm.
So it just went all wrong. And there was a documentary, obviously, that I watched that interviewed our sister, Louise's sister, and her name was Teresa. And she did go on to say that Louise and herself, and I don't know if I think she had a brother as well, but certainly Louise herself, they suffered some abuse from their grandfather.
Oh, okay.
And apparently their mother had encouraged it and stuff like that when they were younger. So
their mother encouraged her dad to abuse her
kids.
children.
Yeah.
That's disgusting.
It is disgusting. And the reason I want to mention that is because it's not an excuse maybe for what happened, but it's almost
There's never an excuse.
No, there was obviously a cycle of abuse that has been repeated, and it comes from, I think, Louise being abused by her grandfather when she was younger. So the Turpin family lived in Fort Worth, Texas until 1999, when they moved to a nearby city called Rio Vista. This is where we start to get an idea of what life was like behind closed doors. So I've no idea how big their house was. I have seen pictures of it, but I don't know exactly how big it was. But in 2007, David and Louise actually moved 10 of their children into a trailer on their property. So again, in this documentary, I've seen, like, they live in this, basically it's like one of these towns that have, like, you have loads of land, like, basically, like, big fields and stuff like that, and, like, you have, like, houses, and there's not many people around, you know what I mean? There's, like, all these houses are like that, but big bits of land and houses. So, so they moved 10 of their children into the trailer of the property, and they took the two youngest into the house, and basically, they actually left the rest of the children to fend for themselves.
What? So they weren't even, like, coming into the house for their meals?
No, I think apparently they would drop them off, like, supplies now and again, but they literally just left them for a while. I don't know exactly how long, but just, a long time.
Getting annoyed already.
Yeah. So one of their daughters, Jordan, who was 6 at the time, she said there was a lot of starving and that she had resorted to eating ketchup, mustard, and even ice. So even though they were bringing them off supplies, they weren't really...
They obviously weren't bringing enough to fill them up.
Exactly. But I just don't understand, like, why you would just chuck them into this trailer. I mean, the house, like I say, I don't know exactly how big it was inside as such, but I mean, from the outside, it looked like
they had maybe at least a bedroom, a couple of bedrooms to put them in.
Exactly. I mean, I know there was a lot of kids, but I mean, I'm sure they could have. And I don't know. You know, I know they were had went bankrupt and stuff, so I don't know exactly what money situation was like for them. But I mean, if they lived on a big place with lots of land, you'd think they could build something, or I don't know. But
you think they could put the kids somewhere in the house?
Well, you'd think, but yeah. So I think that was awful. And you know, and then obviously in the documentary there was an interview with like their neighbours at the time there, neighbours, and I mean they said that they remember them moving in, and you know they had 2 daughters themselves, and like one of the daughters would go and play with them and stuff like that. So it's you know I'll tell you about that in a second, but so basically they actually moved to another place in California. So this is when the neighbours I was just talking about, they actually decided to go and look in their house. I don't know, because I don't know if their house got repossessed or whatever, but they obviously were able to go and look in the house.
After they moved? After they moved,
right. Yeah. The neighbours that were still there actually went and looked at the house, because there's like pictures of the house, and it just, you know...
And the state that they left it.
And the state that they left it,
right.
Yeah, because it's almost like they flitted, you know, they just like upped and moved and left like stuff there, like they left like rubbish and all that sort of stuff. So they had a look around the old house, so they found feces, and they found beds with ropes tied to them.
Like human feces?
Yeah. Along with dead cats and piles of garbage.
Dead cats?
Mm-hmm. Which seems to be a theme, because it's not the first time they find dead cats in their house.
Oh, so for one hand they can't look after their children, but they obviously can't look after their pets either.
It does seem that way, yeah. So weird. So like I say, I saw an interview with the neighbours in Rio Vista, and they had 2 daughters, and one of them went to play with the Turpin kids until in her mum's words, it got weird. So that's like the neighbour said, it got weird. The kids smelled, they dressed funny, had weird haircuts, and said one of the girls' hands were so white that she thought she had gloves on. But the girl told her that they had been told they couldn't wash above the wrists, for that was a waste of water. So basically her hands were white, clean, above her
So
wrists.
she's allowed to wash her hands?
Yeah, but she wasn't allowed to wash above her hands, because that's a waste of water. So basically the rest of her must have been like really dirty and stuff, and that's why there was an apparent...
How can that be a waste of water? You're washing, you need to wash.
Exactly.
What a shame.
So the Turpin's secret was almost rumbled at this point when the eldest girl decided to run away. She had run down a road and was picked up by a neighbour, but sadly, due to her malnourishment and lack of education, it was actually thought she was mentally challenged, so she was returned to her parents. So after that, you'd actually see the kids out playing for a while, but after a couple of weeks, you didn't see much in the games, so it was almost like they were doing it for show.
Right,
like they were like letting the kids out, having a play about.
They're fine, yeah.
Yeah, they're all good,
yeah.
and then, after a few months, that was it, they were sort of withdrawn again.
That's awful.
So as their secrets and perversions were starting to reveal themselves, that's when they moved to Perris in California. And what struck me as strange here was the house in Texas that they were in with the trailer.
Mm-hmm.
I was explaining to you, like it was on a big bit of land, a very small town, not a lot of people. So to me, that's a perfect place for what they were obviously up to behind closed doors. But the place that they moved to in California, it was like a normal street, like a normal place where there's houses on each side, like street houses, a much more populated area of people. And I thought, I wonder why they moved there, because if they wanted to keep this secret, where they had been living seemed more like a perfect place.
Yeah, it seems strange to have them in sort of a community, like a place where people could see what they were doing.
Basically, yeah. So I find that just a little strange. I mean, that was obviously never explained why they moved there or whatever, but I just thought it was strange. So after moving here, Louise, who is now 47, gave birth to their 13th child, because before that they'd only had the 12 kids.
Wow.
So they had a 13th child. As described, it was the domestic torture chamber was in full flight. Even though several of the children were adults, all 13 of them were rarely allowed out. They were often chained to their beds, fed once a day, bathed once a year, and had no communication with the outside world.
That's awful.
I know,
imagine having no communication with the outside world.
Bath once a year. I mean,
Well, I was thinking the communication was worse.
Because that was the other thing, actually, I'd seen it in the different documentary, where Louise with her said, like, she would buy, like, all these new kids, like, clothes. Like, there was rails of clothes new with tags on in the closet.
But the kids never got
to wear them because they were just in filth. Like, so it's like, why go and buy them and then not even let your kids wear them?
It really is.
Really weird. So Louise's sister Teresa said that they'd walked away from the church and had told her that they even dabbled with witchcraft. So her sister
I'm assuming, like, the sister didn't know any of this was going on.
No, because basically what she said was that, you know, obviously they used to, like, until they went bankrupt, you know, it was quite normal, but then they obviously withdrew from everybody, like, the family and stuff. So they would, like, FaceTime and, you know, they would sort of... But eventually, I think... Teresa said that they'd commented on the kids looking a bit thin, so like the FaceTime stopped.
Right.
I don't know if it was FaceTime at the time or whatever, maybe Skype or whatever it was, but and then eventually it was just like phone calls, just normal phone calls. So they stopped seeing the children.
Right.
So she obviously, I don't think she realised exactly what was going on here at the time, but you know, she knew that, you know, for some reason they just weren't letting anybody see the kids, and they just weren't talking, and let's say it obviously got weird. So Teresa said that she thinks that they found some cult, and because why else would they do what they were doing? It was pure evil. That's what she said. Like she couldn't, like, why else would they be doing what they were doing to the kids unless they're in some kind of cult? Because she just couldn't understand how anybody.
Because they're just pure evil.
Yeah, basically, I think so. So the children didn't actually spend all of their time in captivity. Photos did emerge of the whole family visiting Disneyland. The boys and girls were dressed in matching t-shirts. So I always noticed in because also there's a few photos that you've seen of them, a few different things. They're always in matching clothes, like all the time. So like there was a picture of them. I don't know. Well, in Disneyland they have have you heard of the thing? It's
what,
like Dr. Zeus. Something, yeah. So there's like these red t-shirts. It's like thing 1, thing 2, thing 3. So obviously if you're in a family, you can each have a t-shirt. So they basically had like, I think it was like mum, dad thing, and then it was like from 1 to 13, they all had like these red t-shirts on with like thing 1, thing 2, thing 3.
So you would think that was like a happy, close family that would do things like that.
Exactly. I mean, it's maybe the only time they had clean clothes on.
Well, at least have clean clothes.
Yeah, so, and I saw quite a few pictures of them matching clothes. So, you know, they must have done it for show, I think. They must have.
It seems quite strange, though, to treat them the way that they're being treated and then take them to Disneyland, because Disneyland is obviously...
David and Louise, they were quite into Disneyland, like, because there was a few pictures of them on their own as well. They obviously liked Disney and stuff like that.
Yeah, but, like, I mean, Disney is a place where most kids want to go to.
Yeah, exactly.
So, and it's a massive treat to go there. So... And in a normal situation, then you'd be thinking, yeah, great, but in this, it's just like, but why though? Because of the way that they're being treated. Yeah. And would that not be like a massive shock to the kids?
Yeah, you think.
Like all these people. I mean, you know, when I've been to Disneyland, there's a lot of people there. Yeah. So like to go from not seeing anybody and not having any interaction with other people to go to this massive big place where there's like loads of other people. You would think they would find that maybe a bit scary.
Well, as I'll tell you later on, I mean, like there's things that I just can't believe they didn't even know. So I, you know,
they would. Yeah, I mean, I know you'll get onto it, but
I'm just going to tell you, there's another. So there's another actually video emerged of them. David and Louise must have renewed their vows in Vegas.
Right.
So
and the kids were there.
Yeah, there's like a video of, because it's like it's a guy dressed as Elvis that's conducting the ceremony. So they've obviously videoed it. And again, the kids are all dressed in the same outfits, so the girls all have the same dress on, and the boys have their outfit on, and it's all like they look all happy and smiley, and they're dancing and stuff. But it does turn out that like before they were there, they were told like, you must do this, you must do that. Like Louise, they would basically told them how to act and told them what to do and not to talk to people. But I mean, they actually do genuinely look happy. Like but I think it's because they're probably
scared to not look happy.
Yeah, exactly. They are, and you know, I think they were actually enjoying themselves in the sense of they were out doing something.
Yeah, maybe they were. Maybe it wasn't put on. Maybe they were actually enjoying themselves because they were, as you said, they were out. They were doing something.
I know, it's just awful. But anyway, so by 2018, the Turpin children had actually been planning to escape from their parents for more than 2 years. So they obviously knew something wasn't right. Yeah, I mean, obviously knew that this wasn't right. So I've actually seen, like, what I'm about to tell you now, I've actually seen the footage of this, because it was on the documentary, because it was caught on, like, a street camera, and then on police cams as well. So on the 14th of January 2018, 2 of the girls actually left the house through a window. The younger girl, who was 13 though, she became frightened and turned back.
Aww.
But Jordan, who I told you about before, she's like the main focal point of this family.
Yeah.
She's like the one. So she was 17. So in this
Was she the oldest, or was
no,
the
she
older
wasn't.
ones?
The oldest one was actually 29.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm.
I never
Which
realised.
I'll tell you more about her.
As I said, like, I did listen to a podcast about it, but I was, like, lying in bed listening to it, and I think I maybe, like, sort of drifted off, so I didn't...
Yeah.
I missed
I think it's
details.
just, like, amazing, because I'm thinking to myself, in my 20s, if my mum and dad didn't let me go out cheap, I mean, I just can't imagine that. Like, can you imagine mum and dad stopping you from going out and doing things that you did?
No, but then we weren't... They've been conditioned to that.
Yeah.
They've had that their whole lives, haven't they?
I know.
So, you know, in a normal situation, we're used to being out and...
But it just shows you what power they obviously had over their children.
Yeah,
I mean,
but that's all they've known. That's
Yeah.
all the kids have known. So,
exactly.
you know, they wouldn't... all they know is to do as their parents tell them, and, you know, that's just the way it is. And
Yeah. So anyway, so basically you see, like, the street camera, and then obviously in the darkness you can just see this, like, you know, person, which is Jordan, and you just sort of see her, you know, come out of the house, and then she's sort of walking along, and then all of a sudden she just sort of runs. So
does she have, like, clothes on her?
Yeah,
like nightwear, or like...
Well, I don't know what she, because the footage is, like, in dark at night time. I can't clearly see what she's actually wearing.
I just wondered if it was, like, sort of, like, rags, or if it was, like, proper clothes.
The clothes were dirty, and she had, like, I remember she put a cap on, because it was, I think it was one of her siblings' caps, but it was, like, to remind her why she was doing what she was doing. She said she actually, because she never started off with the cap, but then she had a backpack, and then she put the cap on her head, but I don't actually know what she was wearing. So anyway, so she was she got out of the house on the street, and she just, like, ran a distance, and then she actually managed to, she'd actually had a phone with her. It was a disconnected mobile, but it was still able to phone 911.
All right.
So she phoned 911, and I've heard some of the calls.
I just assumed that she went to a phone box.
Yeah,
I thought it was a public phone you went to.
But no, because the phone, I'll tell you where the phone come from later, because I was like, how's she even got a phone? Like, how does she know how to use it, etc, etc. But I can explain a bit more of that later. But anyway, she had this phone that she managed to phone 911 on. So as I said, I heard the call, and you just hear her saying, you know, can you help me? My parents are abusive, and 2 of my sisters are chained up. The 911 call handler asks, like, how many are tied up, and she replies by saying 2 of my sisters, and then she remembers, one of my brothers as well, and she went on to say, you know, we live in filth, and sometimes I wake up and I can't breathe, because of how dirty the house is. She was asked when was the last time she had a bath, and her reply was, I don't know, almost a year ago.
Oh.
And the thing is, we'll see, like, when you hear the call, because the vocabulary isn't great. Like, the way she talks, it's not...
Is it maybe, like, a lot younger than what she is?
Yeah, and it's, like, sort of slow and just, not as a normal 17-year-old. It's, like, fluent and stuff,
Yeah.
and it's... I mean, she can obviously talk and she can form her words, but it's just slightly... You can tell there's a difference in the way she talks.
Right.
Like, it's not quite normal, I would say. But, I mean, she's still a good talker.
Aye.
But just not...
It's understandable, though, isn't it?
Not fluent. So she went on to say that, she's never been out. I don't go out much, so I don't know anything about the streets or anything. She didn't even know what a sidewalk was.
Oh,
because I think she said at one point she was sort of running on the road because she didn't realise she was supposed to be on a pavement sidewalk. She didn't actually know.
Wow.
That's just something you think's normal, isn't it?
Yeah, of course.
I don't think.
That's something that you'd learn from being
a
toddler,
yeah,
like,
exactly. But because they didn't really go out anywhere, she didn't even know what a pavement was. So she was asked if she was homeschooled. I think initially the call handler probably thought she'd just a normal runaway from her house basically. So she was obviously asking a lot of questions. So she asked if she was homeschooled, And her reply was, no, we don't do school. Our mother tells people that we're private schooled and she has a fake private school set up, but we don't really do school. I haven't finished first grade and I'm 17.
Wow.
So I think first grade's like primary 1?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's
like a 5-year-old.
Yeah. So, she hasn't done anything really. So Jordan, she did speak bitterly about Louise on the 911 call. She said that I don't know much about my mother. She doesn't like us. She doesn't spend time with us ever.
Oh.
And Jordan, she had never seen a police officer. She didn't know what a hospital was, or she didn't even know what medication was.
Wow.
Because when the office, the police officer, because obviously then you see because basically the call handler asks her to go and stand. She's like, do you see any street signs, etc.? She's like, oh, I see a stop sign. She's like, right, go and stand beside that. Because there was a guy, on his way, the police officer who'd taken a call, but he was about 15 minutes away. So she was panicking because she was like, oh my God, what if my parents see me? What if they realise I've gone? So the police officer turned up. So then it switches to his body cam. So you see him, and you see Jordan, but again it's so dark and shadowed that you can't make it all out. But again, I think he just thinks, oh, she's run away, because he was actually finishing his shift, he said in it. So he was like, oh, I've had these things before. I thought I was just going to go get the girl, take her home, etc., etc. Not realising about what he was about to hang out on. So, of course, for some reason, she'd had the brainwave to actually take pictures of her siblings tied up. Or I don't know if it was girls. I think it might have been girls that were tied up. She actually took pictures of them in the house, tied up before she left, so that she actually had the proof to show.
I'm surprised you know how to do that, though, eh?
Yeah. Well, surprisingly, she'd actually uploaded YouTube videos as well. So they obviously had, I think they had watched televisions and they'd maybe been given devices and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I think her brother maybe had a phone or a device or something. So they were aware of it, just not we're aware of it.
Yeah.
Because like I say, she liked to sing, so she'd actually uploaded a video of her singing, and in fact she'd uploaded more videos of her singing, but it would always been in her bathroom, I think, and she must have been interacting with people that had commented on her posts, and somebody must have said, why are you always in there, why I was there, and through a conversation with this person, that's when she really realised that things weren't right in her life, that it was abuse. And that's actually what gave her the courage to go, no, I need to do something about this. I need to report this, etc., which I thought was quite good, just by a total stranger.
Yeah. Good on that person for
totally,
making her realise.
So anyway, so she showed the police officer the pictures of the abuse, and that's when he was like, oh, right, there's something wrong here. Because she was obviously scared that he was just going to take her back to the house.
Yeah.
Because I think that's normally if it's a runaway, that generally is what happens, yeah. But obviously she was so scared because she was like, if I went back to the house, I think they would just kill me. That's the type of parents that they were.
Well, if to find out that she'd done what she'd done, then who knows what would have happened to her if they just took her back.
Yeah. So basically, once they'd established that there was something big here, they did actually, he obviously called for backup, and they did ask Jordan to go back. Did she want to go back to the house? But she was like, no, I can't, because I think whatever. So I think she was still nervous about thinking she might just go back and that all would be good. So deputies of the Riverside County Sheriff's Department, they decided to turn up at the house and say that they were doing a welfare check.
Right.
Because they, that's what they were going to do. So they knocked on the door. And at first nobody answered the door, so it was just but they obviously persisted and knocked. And eventually you see David and Louise at the door, because again this is through their police cam thing. So you see them come up to the door. So I think they're a bit startled. I think, well, why is the police at my house sort of thing? So they're like, oh, we're doing a welfare check. And, obviously can we come inside and have a look, basically. So they let them in. So once inside, the police officers, they encountered a house reeking of human excrement, decaying rubbish, dead pets, see, told you I had the word for that, and moulding food, with every surface covered in rubbish. It was just like a hoarder's house, really, just rubbish everywhere, just minging, absolutely minging. I'm just laughing because I think my daughter's been at my book and she's put a wee love heart and a kiss at the top there.
Aww.
That's not being so
probably just as well she can't read that great yet then.
I know, because I think I'd left it lying out when I was in the middle of it.
You do realise that your daughter's learning to read now, so probably not a good idea to leave things like that lying around.
I shouldn't have left it there. She put a wee love heart and a kiss on there for me, so I thought that was nice.
Well, that was nicer, but yeah, parent 101. Don't let your child read your true crime stories.
Totally not. So anyway, they found the other 12 children. One had been shackled to a bed for weeks, and 2 others were also found shackled.
Oh.
The children were found with bruises on their arms, which actually, the kid like Jordan, she didn't know what a bruise was. Like, she didn't know that, because when she was trying to explain to the police officer in the photo, she was like, oh, just like sort of march. She couldn't explain that was a bruise. Yeah,
she wouldn't know the words. She wouldn't know the word for it.
Exactly. So, and they appeared frail and they were caked in dirt. And the children were so malnourished that deputies thought they were all under 18, when in fact 7 of them were over 18.
Wow.
The house contained hundreds of journals written by the children about their lives as well.
So the kids read and write
yeah,
then?
It wasn't like they were completely...
They've obviously been taught at some point then.
Well, it actually turns out that only the oldest child ever went to a school. She was in school for the first... I can't remember how long it was now, but she was the only one that actually went to a public school, but she was withdrawn when, because she went and she was like dirty and...
I'm sure the teachers would have...
well, actually, because they did say that's what they were surprised at, that the teachers didn't actually pick up on it at all. But I think she was withdrawn from school after so long, so she was the only one that ever got any education.
But the parents must have taught them.
Well, actually, that's what I'm sorry. The older kids did teach the younger kids some stuff.
Right.
So there was, I don't know where they've obviously been taught it from, probably from their parents, I guess. But the older kids did teach like the younger kids bits and pieces as well. So for years, the parents had imprisoned, beaten and strangled their children, allowing them to eat just once a day and shower once a year. The older children appeared much younger because of malnourishment, so the 29-year-old weighed just 82 pounds, or just over 5.5 stone for comparison. The 11-year-old child had an arm circumference equivalent to a 4-month-old baby.
Oh.
Some appeared to lack the basic knowledge of the world, and as I said before, they didn't know what police hospitals or even medicine were, so they didn't know. And I mean,
so what did they do? Like, none of the kids must have ever got really, really sick.
Well,
then.
That's what the police officer said. He's like, do you take any medication? And she was like, what's medication?
What is that?
What is it? And he was like, well, if you're not feeling well or anything. And she was like, oh, we take something. I can't remember what it was called now, but it was something for like headaches. So there was like one thing that we taken, but other than that, they didn't have normal stuff. They didn't even know what hospital it was for Christ's sake.
None of them must have been serious. That must have been sick, really.
I'm assuming not.
But that's strange though, for children to get up to like 29 years old without needing to see a doctor for anything.
Exactly.
It doesn't even have to be serious, but even just for maybe
infection or and then considering the conditions that they were living in, you think they would be prone to maybe not catching things and stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously there was nothing. I mean, I don't know anything about what illnesses they may have had as they were growing up, because there was nothing there to tell me, but I don't know. Yeah,
I just find it strange that they can get
obviously
to that age
nothing serious enough that they've been at a hospital, basically.
Yeah, but it's just
crazy.
It's strange that I just can't imagine getting to that age without even having to go to the doctors for something.
I know.
That's weird.
I mean, we've all been at the doctors when we're kids, haven't we?
Oh yeah, I mean, we've all been to the doctors before you're 29 years old. We've all been to the doctors at some point.
Exactly.
Totally. So they've obviously just, if they haven't been feeling well, they've either let them be, or maybe they have managed to get hold of, maybe the parents have got some over-the-counter sort of medicine for them.
They just don't, if they don't even know what it is, they've not been aware of it.
Well, they don't necessarily have to know what medication is to have been given medicine at some point.
That's true, but I say they did also have something for headaches, I think she said, but I can't remember what it was called. It's something I hadn't heard of anyway. So Louise had a brother as well, and he was obviously part of the documentary that I watched. And I remember him saying that he wasn't happy with like the neighbours. He said that one neighbour had said that they had saw the kids marching in a circle one night in the back garden, and another neighbour said that they saw 2 of the boys digging around the bins at night, but neither said or did anything at the time. So he was annoyed, because he was like, well, surely you must have thought something was wrong. But I mean, it's difficult, isn't it? Because you tend to mind your own business, don't you?
You do.
I mean, it is a bit weird that the kids would be out in the dark marching, because they obviously weren't seen in the daytime, so it must have been like maybe their exercise or something, where they were out,
But to me, that could have been like, that could be a game that the kids were playing. They maybe could have been, oh, we're soldiers, like we're playing a game. I mean, I know it's probably a bit far-fetched, but
I know.
As you said, like, we tend to sort of just mind our own business when it comes to our neighbours, because nobody wants to fall out with their neighbours. They don't want to cause any hassle because you have to live next to these people.
Yeah.
And like the boys raking in the bin, well, I've raked in a bin before because my flatmate managed to put my engagement ring in the bin.
Mm-hmm.
So we had to go raking through the bin. You know what I mean? So it could have been something like that.
Exactly.
You maybe would.
But he just seemed
You
very...
make it. I would have thought you would make excuses. If I saw, I've got a neighbour. They've got two young boys. If I saw them raking in the bin, I probably wouldn't think anything of it because I probably would just think, oh, they've lost something, so they're checking to see if they've chucked it out by accident.
Boys are boys, you know what they're like.
Who knows? I probably wouldn't think that much of it.
Yeah, I think that's what I was thinking. I mean, I can understand how he was
That's
upset,
an afterthought, though, isn't it? Because of what was going on.
In that moment, I kind of thought, well, would you have? I'm not sure. I mean...
like it does depend. Like, obviously, we don't know the details. They were marching round. They were raking in the bins. Maybe there was more to it than that.
Exactly.
But if that's all it was, I don't think I would have done anything about that either.
So I was like, well, I know he's upset because of what has happened.
Of course, yeah. And it's easy to have hindsight, isn't it?
Oh, totally, yeah. And I'm sure the neighbours in their hindsight wish they had said something, but
of course.
In that moment, I mean, you just don't think there's going to be something as horrendous as that going on.
Exactly.
I mean,
that's the thing. You never think that anything bad's going on, do you? You just nobody really wants to think of things like that.
Totally not.
And especially not to that degree.
Exactly. So David and Louise Turpin were charged with 12 counts of false imprisonment, 7 counts of abuse of a dependent adult, and 6 counts of child abuse. David received an additional charge of a lewd act on a child under 14.
Huh? On one of his children?
Well, it doesn't say. I didn't get this, but that was all it said, so I don't know whether that was his children. I mean, that's what I just said.
Right, okay.
I can't answer. Yeah. So initially, they actually pled not guilty.
Okay.
But on the 22nd of February 2019, David and Louise each changed their not guilty pleas to guilty to 1 count of torture, 3 counts of willful child cruelty, 4 counts of false imprisonment, and 6 counts of cruelty to an adult dependent. Both were found guilty and sent to life imprisonment with the possibility of parole after 25 years. However, experts believe they will never receive parole due to the severity of the crime, making it effectively a life sentence, which I agree, I don't think it should be.
They shouldn't be allowed.
They put those kids through, I think the fact that they even say there was a possibility of parole is just an insult.
I was waiting for you to finish what you were saying, but I was thinking to myself, nah.
Yeah.
They should be in there for the rest of their lives because they've done that over 30 years, 29 years, whatever it was, the oldest child was. Mm-hmm. That's how long they've done that for. That's not just I smacked my child or something. You know, wasn't it just a one-off thing?
They abused all their children.
Yeah,
the thing
they're dangerous people.
That got me was like, but you know, God apparently told them to have all these children. But did God not tell you to take care of your children properly?
No, obviously not. Obviously, he just told them to have the children.
Yeah, but not to actually take care of them. I mean, it's a lot of children to have. I mean, 13 children is a lot to manage. But I'm sorry, if you do the deed, then you've got to, accept the responsibility and look after those children properly.
Well, exactly. It doesn't matter how many children you have, whether you have 1 child or 13 children, you have to look after them. That's just the way it is. What's the point in having them if you're not going to look after them?
Exactly.
And if God has told you to have them, I'm sure, did you not think that God was expecting you to do something after that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
You were expected to look after the children after that?
Mm-hmm. Exactly, because they can't fend for themselves in this world.
Absolutely disgusting.
It is. It really is.
It's horrific. Mm-hmm. In this day and age as well.
Oh, I know. Because it's only fairly recent as well.
Well, that's what I mean. Like, for that to happen, I mean, obviously it's been going back.
Yeah, it goes back a long time.
Yeah, but like for it to be so recent that for them to have been caught, because assuming the youngest child was still a baby, wasn't that? It was still young anyway.
Yeah, because it was 2000 and... Did I say 2015 or something like that?
Yeah, the youngest one was still young. So
still
that's how recent it's been. And obviously, they've been abusing the children for all that time. But it's the fact that technology actually did save them, though. Because we're saying in this day and age, but the fact it was technology that saved them, because, like as you said, it was the uploading to YouTube
to
and
the
stuff.
YouTube. I know that's started doing our singing videos. That.
So what had happened if it hadn't have been so recent? What if this was like 50 years ago?
Yeah, would they have got
less than that?
Would they have got out of the cycle of abuse?
Exactly.
I'm not sure they would have escaped
because they maybe didn't realise. Because from what it sounds like, they didn't realise that they were really. They didn't realise that it was that bad because it's this person from the outside on YouTube that said basically you're being abused.
Yeah, exactly. Because initially they just thought this was life.
That's
what it was. And then, you know, obviously...
So would they have realised? Or would they have just kept going on? I mean, would these people have grown up to be 50 years old and still...
I mean, look at the oldest one being 29
yeah,
at the time.
exactly.
I mean, you know...
That's scary.
That's crazy. And that's... I mean, Jordan, obviously I've seen an interview with Jordan and she's just so brave. She saved all her...
She saved her family.
Exactly.
But, like, just to think, especially the older ones, how are they going to adjust?
Yeah. Well, the good news is that you get to... Because obviously a lot of them, you don't know anything about them. It's just Jordan and the oldest, who's 29.
I did see on TikTok.
Jennifer, yeah. So they did an interview together.
Yeah.
So they're the only two that have actually spoken out.
I didn't actually watch the interview because I knew that you were going to do this. So, but I did recently see their interviews, but I thought, I can watch them now. But
yeah. So I'll tell you about that. So all the children spent several weeks in hospital afterwards.
Hopefully getting lots of care and food.
Well... I had that thought.
Okay.
So afterwards, the 6 minors were put into foster care. And at this point, you probably think that the Turpin kids, you know, will start to live a happier life. Mm-hmm. But, however, however, there were reports of more abuse taking place in the foster homes.
Oh, no.
In October 2019, 5 of the kids were adopted by their foster family as the abuse was occurring. But the foster family was actually arrested and charged with abusing multiple children in their care. So after all that abuse that they've just suffered...
They will know that those children have suffered that abuse.
Absolutely. And they went into this foster home. And I actually think it included Jordan, because she was a minor, 17.
Right.
That they were then... I don't know what kind of abuse they were thinking to, but there was more abuse for those poor kids, which I think is horrific.
Yeah, but they know what those kids have been through, and they're putting them through even more.
And well, the system as well has put them into
That's horrific.
So in early 2020, the Riverside County Deputy District Attorney said that some of the children were living independently, living in their own apartment, and have jobs and are going to school. But an investigation for the ABC News Magazine 2020, which covered the case for the November 2021 special, reported that some of the Turpin children are now neglected by Riverside County Social Services. Some are homeless, and none can use the hundreds of thousands of dollars donated to them. The money was placed in a trust controlled by a court-appointed guardian. One of the boys, Joshua Turpin, stated that he could not access funds and he was denied the purchase of a bike.
But why is he denied access?
Well, exactly. I don't understand.
That money is for them.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, they couldn't access the money that's been donated to them.
Oh, that is absolutely awful.
So during an interview, which is the one you're probably talking about, with Diane Sawyer for the 2020 special, which was called House of Horrors, that was the name. Mm-hmm. Jordan, stated that she was released without warning from a foster home with no life skills, no plans for housing, or knowledge of how to get food and healthcare.
Wow.
So according to a report, Riverside County have hired a private law firm to investigate allegations of abuse by social services. So I'm going to tell you about the interview, which I've said there, discussed from memory.
Oh, okay. Well, let's hope that your memory was good then.
But yeah, so they did an interview, and I actually, because obviously I'd seen Jordan up to this point, but then you've seen Jennifer, who was now 33 at the time of this interview.
So is this the oldest one?
This is the oldest one. And even though she's the oldest one, she still looks so young. Like, you wouldn't think she was 33. Like, just in her appearance, she looks younger than she is.
Yeah. And
the way that she talks, the way that she speaks, she just sounds so much younger.
That's understandable.
And it's obviously based from, the whole years of, malnourishment and thing. And she actually said in the interview, she's like, I'll refer to them as like mother and father in this just for the purposes of this interview, but that's not why that's not how I refer to them anymore. But that's for the purpose of the interview they did. And I mean, she was quite. I think psychologically you could see it. I mean, Jordan to me, she's like so strong, brave. While she can still see it affects her, but she's like really more confident, I would say, more. But whereas Jennifer, you could see she was quite withdrawn, reserved.
Right. And,
not quite comfortable in the situation.
Well, people, they're going to deal with it differently as well, aren't they?
But I just thought, they were just so brave talking about it, because they basically, they recounted the whole thing, and, Jordan, recounted on that they'd seen, like, footage that she hadn't even seen before, like the police cam footage and stuff. And I think it did upset them, obviously.
Yeah.
But they were just so brave and just telling the whole story.
But imagine coming from that, from spending your whole life being basically kept in a house, chained up, malnourished, all the abuse, then to sitting on TV and telling the world basically, or what's happened to you. That's well brave.
Yeah,
I just can't imagine.
I was sitting there going, I just can't believe you are sitting there so brave. And then there was that, because there was actually they did another interview with like a Good Morning America show that was obviously after their special had been aired and stuff, and they were talking about it again, and just they're obviously like the two focal points, because none of the rest of the family have spoken out or have been interviewed or anything like that, so they're just like the two ones that have spoken about it. And I mean, Jordan herself, I actually followed her on TikTok, because she's actually got a TikTok page, right? She's just been verified on it as well, because she wasn't under her normal name, actually she was under a different name, but obviously in the research I'd seen that she had one, but she's obviously just been verified and she's now changed it to her normal name. It's just like that, dances and stuff like that. But yeah,
any support we can give her, eh?
Totally. I mean, but then like you can still, in the way that they like she talks as well, like you can. I don't know how to explain it. You need to like listen to her to understand.
You can tell a difference.
Yeah, there's a difference in how her speech
is.
I mean, while she's very well spoken and stuff, it's very apparent that it just doesn't seem quite normal.
Well, yeah, I mean, it would be. I mean, like if you think about, having a normal childhood, you're learning how to speak. You're not just stuck with your parents and your siblings. You're going to school. You've got different people to speak to there, and whatever groups that you maybe go to outside of school.
Yeah.
So you're the TV that you're watching, everything, that's all going to impact on the way that you learn and the way that you speak. But if they don't have that,
I know. And I mean, Jennifer, she's like got her own place now, and I can't remember what she was doing. I'm sure she had a job or something, but I can't remember what it was. But she was doing well for herself, basically. Good. And then Jordan, she wants to basically carry on raising awareness about things like that. Like so she'd like to go and do speeches and stuff.
Yeah,
people and
good
stuff
on her.
Like an advocate for it.
Yeah.
Which, to be fair, like she's totally got the.
She'd be the perfect. As horrible as it sounds, she'd be the perfect person
totally
for
the
it.
Person, yeah. And I mean, she just, she's still. I think she said she was still dealing with her issues from the abuse of the foster homes and stuff like that. But I mean, they looked great. I mean,
I hope they're all getting a lot of like therapy and stuff like to deal with it.
But I mean, the two girls, they looked, looked so well and amazing. But you could still see just like, especially Jennifer, just because she's 33, and I think it's only a few years younger than what I am. Mm-hmm. But yet she looks a lot younger than that. I think but
and to think like how privileged your life has been compared to theirs, to hers.
I know. But hopefully now they can go on and live what life should be like.
Yeah. Of course.
Find out things and
go and enjoy the rest of their life. But unfortunately, look what they've came into though. They've came into a pandemic. They've I know. So life isn't normal. Life isn't normal yet. So they still won't be able to experience normal life because we're still in a pandemic.
Well, that's it. And that was the other thing that Jordan said, is that it was actually Justin Bieber. Like she used to watch, because she'd obviously got. That's how she got on YouTube. She'd actually started watching his videos, and like she would obviously follow like documentaries on him and stuff like that. And she was like, oh, so that's what life should be like. That's the things that I should be doing. And, he was having a great time doing all these things, and she was sort of he was like something that got her through basically the days that it was hard and stuff. So good. I feel like we're just so privileged and so spoilt now, like having a decent childhood. It just shows you. I mean, as bad as horrible as it think, but there are many probably other kids' families. I don't know if it's as horrific as that, but certainly going through things behind closed doors that you just don't know about.
I know.
And I mean, there's been few recent things over here in the UK that a few kids have been killed by their parents because of the abuse and torture and stuff. So
absolutely awful. I just don't understand how anybody could do that to anybody.
And I mean, I am honestly surprised and shocked that they have all survived. Like none of them have actually died at all. They've actually all got through this, and hopefully they will live a better life, a long happy life.
Yeah.
And
let's hope so, because they deserve it. A lot of them,
and I hope that they too rot in jail, and
they
don't deserve to see the light of day.
Surely not. Surely they're not going to come.
I mean, I have to say, not that you like to stereotype people, but just looking at them as well, they give me the chills just looking at them. They just
I mean, like, I don't think that's really stereotyping. I think evil people, they just have that look that is. It's like quite chilling, quite terrifying.
Honestly. I mean,
And you have to be evil to do that.
oh, totally.
And that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't understand how anybody can abuse anybody, but like to do it to children is just the worst.
That's where it's. I find it hard. You know how like they say like the cycle of abuse, where because obviously Louise herself had been abused when she was younger, but you'd think she would want to do everything to not have that repeated, but yet
I think it just goes one way or the other though, because you do find that a lot. But you do get people who are like, right, I'm not going to let that happen to my children, or, you know. But there are people, a lot of people who abuse have been abused.
Yeah,
you know, and it's
a lot of it. I mean, obviously you can't. That's no excuse whatsoever. But that's obviously where that's maybe something come from in her head and her thoughts that, you know, she's experienced that in her life, and somehow she's then decided that it's going to end up being like to her kids as well. It's awful.
It's just absolutely horrific.
So I hope they rot in hell.
I really hope they rot in hell. They deserve it.
And I really hope the kids, you know, I mean, I don't know exactly the situations of all the other kids now. I mean, I've just seen, obviously, Jordan and Jennifer, but
hopefully
really
the kids are happy now, or, you know, on their way to be happy.
The system, the social service, whoever it is that's been in charge of them has a good look at themselves as well, to allow them to go into a foster home, to be adopted, but to be in an abusive family. I mean, that's absolutely dreadful. They've been through enough as it is. To go through that again is just...
I know. I really hope the system is good to them. Like, I just hope that they end up in happy homes. I mean, because obviously not every foster or you know, is going to be like that. But yeah, hopefully they're on their way to becoming happy. And luckily, I mean, like, hopefully I don't know how young they are, but hopefully the younger ones will eventually forget it.
I think the youngest ones would.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously the older ones will be scarred for life, probably.
Exactly, but yeah. So thanks for that.
Yes, you're welcome.
You're welcome.
Or not welcome.
So yeah, if you'd like to get in contact with us, then our information will be in the show notes. As I said, I'll put in our missing person of the week. Their details will be in the show notes as well, and I will put the missing poster on socials in a couple of days probably.
Of course, if you like us and you haven't already, please don't forget to subscribe, rate and review.
Thanks for listening.
Bye.
Bye.